You can't have two alphas. Somebody is going to emerge the leader. Now, this can change from moment to moment, but it's always going to be that dance, that polarization that you're going to have there. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Powerful Man Show. I am your host, Doug Holt, with my co-host and founder of The Powerful Man, Tim, The Powerful Man, Matthews.
Oh,
it's fun watching your face when you do these now that we have video connection.
Yeah, you had me on a cliffhanger then. I was like, is he going to say it? Is he going to say it? He said it. Yes. Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. So, brother, this is coming off the back of the episode we recorded 2 episodes ago. You said something in there that I felt was brilliant, that these men would, our listeners rather, men or women, would really take a lot of value from, and that is the power of polarization in relationships. You know, I speak with a lot of men every day, just like you do, of course. I spoke to one guy in particular yesterday, and he had told me that his marriage was on the rocks. It was on the verge of divorce, and obviously his business was struggling as well, because we all know that everything's connected. And he was pandering a lot to his wife's requests and his wife's needs. And as a result, his wife then rose and has very much become the alpha, let's say, and he's very much become the beta in a lot of respects. And the sex life is obviously taken a huge hit as well. And with the drop in his sex life, his sex drive too has somewhat diminished, which has led to a lack of leadership in his business. He's then not making the decisions that he really is required to make to grow the business. And like I said, he's struggling. And the concept that I would really like to touch upon is the power of polarization. We've spoken about on previous episodes, a balance between the masculine and the feminine, all that kind of stuff. But I think let's really hone in on the polarization and creating that polarization, the importance of it. And I think it'd be wise to start with actually what it is, and like I said, the role it plays.
Awesome. You're looking at me, so I'm assuming you want me to take it away. So guys, yeah, when we look at polarization, this is something, Tim, I did a lot of work on early on. You know, I read about it a lot from David Dieta and other people that are in this space in my 20s. And then, you know, as I got in more serious relationships, I really started focusing on this and seeing how it plays off in intimate relationships, but also in business. You're always going to have with two people an alpha and a beta. You're just going to, right? You can't have two alphas. Somebody is going to emerge the leader. Now, this can change from moment to moment, but it's always going to be that dance, that polarization that you're going to have there. And this is mostly true when you talk about intimacy. So male-female relationships, you know, your husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, partners, is the idea of that polarization. So what you're looking for when I say polarization is you're going to have, you know, kind of like magnets, right? You have two opposite polar fields on a magnet, they attract, right? Hard to pull them apart. Although if you flip those magnets over and you have exactly the same polar fields, they repel each other. This is why if you have two alphas in a relationship, they're going to fight and the relationship's going to be over. Same thing with two betas. Neither of them are going to be fulfilled. The polarization that we're talking about here, specifically with intimate relationships, is essentially the law of attraction or attractiveness between opposite sexes, right? When you have someone who's a little bit more, who takes on the charge, who makes the decisions, who is the stereotypical ideal in romantic movies of the guy's guy, the man, right? You can think about a lot of these movies. And then you have someone who's more feminine, right? So you have masculine, then you have feminine, right? So a more feminine woman tends to attract a more masculine man, right? They're polar opposites and they work really well together. She, in this case, and obviously this can switch, guys. The woman definitely could be more masculine, although it's typically not a woman's natural state, to be in. So what typically happens is as the relationship is going, and I'm going a little bit against the definition, Tim, because I think we got that solidified. As the relationship progresses, what tends to happen here is the woman, for some reason or another, typically is testing the man to see, hey, is he really as strong as he's portraying? We call it, in relationship coaching, they call it shit testing, right? He's testing you. Are you full of shit, right? Are you really this man who's strong, who's alpha, so to speak? And that's not beating your chest strong. That's strong in your emotional states, in your intimacy, being vulnerable, secure who you are, your path, how grounded you are, things of that nature. You take care of yourself. These are all ways of masculinity. But she's going to test you. And if you fail that test by getting upset, you get triggered, or you give in to her wishes all the time, she's not going to feel secure. In order to get that security, she then becomes more alpha. There's two things that happen here, Tim, and I've done this so much in my relationships, I can definitely attest to this, is you as a man are either going to beat her down like you would a guy, and I don't mean physically, but I mean you're going to rise up to the occasion with your masculinity is going to get triggered, and you're going to get there. That's my response when this happens to me. Or you're going to succumb and you're going to say, okay, dear, all right, and you're going to become more beta, which thus requires her to become even more masculine and you to become more subservient or more beta. And we see this all the time with men, right? They decide, well, the right thing to do in our culture is not to stir the pot, not to rock the boat. So I'll do what she says. Yes, dear. Okay, dear. And I do that jokingly, but they do it in other ways. She says she wants X, but you don't agree, but you go with it anyway because it's just easier, right? It's easier than arguing with her. It's easier than putting up a fight or putting up a stand for what you really want. Those are beta moves, right? Those are ways of femininity, the flow, not being secure in yourself. And as a byproduct, Tim, she now has to go to the next level and be masculine because she needs to be secure.
So what I'm hearing you say is conscious arguments, let's say, can be healthy.
Very healthy. I think it's not even conscious arguments, but it's taking a stand for who you are. Yeah, what I'm saying is when you take care of yourself, you need to take care of yourself first. It's like being on an airplane. You need to put the oxygen mask on yourself first. When I take care of me, then I can take care of you, not the other way around.
Yeah, totally. So the listeners, the men that are listening to this, I'm thinking of the men I've spoken to recently, and I've this one guy who said he was pandering to his wife's needs. Like you said, she then has risen. And he said that he then found it difficult to work out in the morning. So he just stopped working out, because if he did work out, then that would mean that she would have longer with the kids because she'd be with them during the day and obviously with them on the morning. So he would just stop. However, the way in which he communicated his desire to work out, so what he would say is, look, I need to go to the gym, rather than saying, well, let's dive in. What would you recommend he would say in that situation? Instead of saying, I need to go to the gym and creating a rift between him and his wife, how could he handle that better?
Oh, it's interesting. I had this conversation this morning with my wife. I didn't share that with you. Wait a minute. I think that's really important. I think sitting down, right? So that's the key, right? Pause, sit down, and saying, I'll talk to my wife. My wife's name's Erin. Erin, I love you, and I love how you are taking care of the children, validating what her needs are. I also realize that you need time by yourself, and I want to give that to you, and I want to make that happen. In order for me to be the man that I want to be for you, a better husband, a better father, and a better man for myself, I need to find a way of exercising every morning or whatever days so that I can provide for our family and provide a way. How can we together come up with a solution to be able to do this?
And is that how the actual conversation went this morning? Because I'm guessing that some guys might be listening to this and thinking, yeah, look, that's great in theory, but it kind of sounds so robotic or fake. It's just not, in the midst of a morning and there's kids going about and it's screaming. It's just not a viable option. Is that how the conversation would actually go for you guys?
Yep, absolutely. So the way it goes, and I'll break it down the way I would do it, right? So first of all, I go, hey, Erin, I realize that in the mornings, things are crazy around here. I really appreciate all the things that you're doing. And I know you need time by yourself. So right now I'm recognizing her. I'm saying, I see you. I see all the great things you're doing. So affirmation. And I also validate her. I realize that you also need time away by yourself. So now she feels seen and heard. Okay. Two most important things in any communication or any relationship. Then once that's been established, then I can talk about my needs, but then I relate my needs to her. Right? So I also need to work out in the mornings. And in order for the reason I do that is so I can be a better husband, a better father, right? So how does my needs and goals tie in with her, and explain that this is what I need? And then I invite her for cooperation. Now, of course, I'll offer solutions as well, but not trying to solve the problem, right? So how can we make this work for our family in a way that I get to work out in the mornings, but at the same time, you also get the time that you deserve away so you can replenish your cup? How can we achieve this together? Now we're in partnership, Tim. Now we're in partnership around a conversation rather than, gosh, I need to work out in the mornings and, it's just no time for me here. I go to work all the time and it's just so tough around here. And you're supposed to take care of the kids anyway. Nobody feels good in that conversation.
And do you think that it takes two people to be equally bought into communicating like this in order for it to work?
Hey, sorry to interrupt the show, but I wanted to ask you a question. Do you ever feel like something's just missing? Like there's something more out there and you just can't put your finger on it? I totally get it. Go over right now to thepowerfulman.com/freedom to discover the system that other businessmen just like you are using. We've included 10 case studies, 10 men just like you who have found the solution and have found their way on their path. And we want to share that with you. Go over to thepowerfulman.com/freedom right away. Now let's get back to the show.
No, not at all. So this is, again, we're going off topic, but it's actually perfect because now if I'm in my masculinity and she's in her, if I'm truly in it, she is naturally going to dip into femininity, right? We're talking about polarization. And my wife, as you know, is a very determined woman. She's not a pushover by any means. And so, and luckily for me, I'm a very assertive man, very. So it gets me in trouble at times. So what I do by having that communication, I've also, over time, we've had this communication, right? She's feeling validated and seen and heard, right? It's kind of that idea of first seek to understand, then be understood. What most of us do in our communication is we just broadcast what we want. Hey, here are my needs. You need to meet my needs. So I did it in a totally different way. Now, if you've done the broadcast method for years, trust me, I used to do it all the time. This is what I'm going to do. This is what you're going to do. And this is how it's going to be. You're going to have to retrain your partner to understand that you're not going to be that way, right? Which I've had to do, Tim. But I do this in business all the time. As you know, I just came into as a consultant for a company, kind of taking over the ad hoc CEO role. And we had a big team, and people didn't want me on the team. They were very vocal about it because I'm the new guy, right? I took their job. Like everybody was climbing for the CEO position. But I came in day one of the meeting. I did the exact same thing. Hey, so-and-so, right? Here's what you want. I get it. I see what you're trying to do, compliment, validation, right? And here's what I'm going to do. Or here's what the company needs. How can we get there? And I took those angry people in the boardroom setting, right, which is just like any other relationship, and I turned them into my advocates, singing my praises because they now felt validated, seen, and heard. It's the same thing in a relationship, with your intimate relationship. The only difference is in an intimate relationship, you're going to have more history, right? You're going to have more history of you either being a dick or you being a great communicator. It's one of the two, pretty much. And that history, you get to rewrite it and retrain your spouse into doing it. And one thing I would leave you and the listeners is, what if you approached it this way? Hey, honey, or hey, dear, or hey, babe, or whatever you call your significant other. I was listening to this podcast and this guy was talking about relationships, and I'd love to get in the best relationship possible with you. You're the one person that means the most to me. And he offers some suggestions, and I was hoping you would try it out with me. I know that you're always working so hard on bettering our relationships, validation. Give her an honest compliment. I see you doing this. Would you be willing to go through this with me? It might feel a little robotic at first, which is an authentic thing to say, but this will get us into the flow. And Tim, when my wife and I first started this, we started using this as a mechanism when we're in arguments. And that's the hardest time to use this because you're pissed and you're triggered. But we use it as a framework. Okay, let's do this. First validate the other person. I'm like, yeah, I see your point or whatever. And you got to get on authentic validation. And when someone validates you, you can almost say anything to them. If it's an authentic validation, if they feel seen and heard, they'll receive what you have to say. If it's authentic.
So I know that we're wrapping this episode up, just to bring it back to the point as well. Polarization. What else, in a nutshell, could in this particular case, the guy who said he was pandering to his wife, the roles of, we've talked about the importance of polarization. What else could he do to then regain that? Well, I guess he doesn't need to regain the role of alpha, does he? Because it'll be polarization there. Although, in your opinion, is it as healthy polarization to come from the woman being in the alpha position and the man being in the beta?
Sorry, Tim, you broke up there for a second. So what I think you're asking is, how does he get back into the alpha position if he's in the beta?
That's what I said, yeah. But I also said, do you feel that it's as important for the man to be in the alpha and the woman to be in the beta position?
Yes.
Okay, so how does he get back there then?
Yeah, it's important for a couple of reasons. One, if the woman's true, most women are naturally feminine, most guys are naturally masculine, at different scales, of course, right? And so these are gross generalizations. I get it. So you can send your hate mail to me later. But these are generalizations. And so what does the man do to get there? Well, the man, first you got to honor your word, guys. That's being masculine, integrity. I said I'm going to do X, and then you do X. Not sometimes, you do it. You do what you say you're going to do. That's a masculine action. You have to gain back that trust that when she follows, you're going to be able to catch her, so to speak, emotionally. You have to be able to control your state, right? Don't get angry. If you fly off, you're one of those guys that flies off the handle, you don't have control of your own emotion, right? You're out of control. That's a sign of weakness, gentlemen. Not a sign of strength. I don't care how big and strong you are. It's a sign of weakness. You are weak in your emotional game, right? You have to get control of that. It doesn't mean you can't be emotional. You should be emotional. It's part of the things, but you need to get control of your state. So those are the first two things that you can do. Honor your integrity, get control of your emotional state. The third thing is you need to know what you want and take a stand for it. And not like a teenager rebelling, taking a stand, but just like very firm. This is what I want. Hey, I'm willing to do this. I go to this line. That's as far as I go. That's it. And Tim, I know this for you is when you say that to the men, that we work with business leaders all over the world. But when you say, hey guys, this is happening, they listen to you because they know you're going to follow through. They know that is your boundary. That is your line, right? You are 99% of the time, you honor and respect that. The only 1% is when you choose to shift. That is a sign of masculinity. It has nothing to do with beating your chest, has nothing to do with being argumentative. That is not a sign of masculinity at all. That is bravado, ego to the extreme. If you want to regain the masculinity and polarization in your relationship, you need to start with those three things first. And there's a whole slew, and we can do a bunch of other episodes on this, of ways of getting back into that masculine sense and allowing your partner to gently fall into your arms, into her femininity and her natural state. Because if she can't, guess what? The first guy or one guy potentially that's going to be very masculine near her, masculine the way I define it, she's going to fall into her femininity around that guy, even if it's not sexual, and that's going to feel good for her.
Very true. And that's where we see where the guys, their wives have ended up, well, we say they seek salvation in the arms of another man, don't they? And we've seen it happen many times because the guy just hasn't been there. He hasn't been able to control his state. He hasn't honored his word. He's been very indecisive. He just hasn't been present. She couldn't rely on him. So although he may have been masculine by going out there and working long hours and, you know, getting up at 5 a.m. and going to the construction site and, you know, doing very physical labor or whatever it is, making decisions all day in business, when he comes home, she obviously doesn't see that, right? She doesn't experience that. And quite frankly, often they don't care either about that. So, you know, when that's lacking in the relationship, that, you know, that is as well when that polarization will then fade away. And like you said, when she does then have an opportunity to relax into her feminine around another guy who is more masculine or is acting more masculine, let's say, that's when we've often seen relationships go astray.
Absolutely. So, gentlemen, this is your call out. And most guys, I find, Tim, don't realize they're in this state at all. They haven't realized that oftentimes when the woman's bickering at him, a lot of that really is just a symptom of the problem. She's bickering probably because she has to be in her masculine around you.
For sure.
Going into your feminine. If she's picking on you, if she's bickering or nagging you, those are masculine things in some ways. And you're allowing it to happen, so to speak. And guys, this is not permission to go off the handle, yell, scream. Those aren't masculine traits. Those aren't masculine actions. That's not what we're talking about here. It's your time to reclaim, right? Reset, reclaim. That's what we talk about, the alpha reset. It's a big part of the exercises we do. It's allowing men to step into their natural masculinity so it's effortless and easy. And it's all about resetting and reclaiming. And that's exactly some of the steps that we're talking about here.
I love it. I love it.
Gentlemen, that's an episode for the Powerful Man Show again today. And I encourage you guys, as always, take some action. Regain the polarity in your relationship. You are going to see your sex life, your home life, and every time you're with your family, just go through the roof as far as fun. And it's going to be enjoyable, guys. I promise. Have an amazing time.